Hello and welcome to Faithfully Stampin' with Jennifer Helm. I am Jennifer Helm, the Faithful Stamper, and I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up! Today I have for you a greeting card with a bonus. This is a card that was copied and inspired from Karen Titus of Stampin' on the Back Porch, and this card is a greeting card, but it also has a little pocket and a bookmark in it. So this is a lot of fun. And I'm going to show you how to make it. I'm going to copy this general idea from Karen, but in a different color. And I decided to do that because I really like Karen's Make It Happen stamp set. And then I have a couple other samples that I created to show you at the end of the video. Karen is a $1 million sales achiever, and so when you reach that milestone with Stampin' Up, they let you come into home office and design your own stamp set, and then they put it in the catalog. So that's pretty cool. And I really like Karen's set because it has books in it, and I'm a pretty avid reader. And it also has some crafty things in it, paper and tape and scissors and a pencil pot and a pencil and a table. And it's hard to find craft sets that have kind of crafty things in it, so I really like this. So we will go ahead and get started. The first thing you are going to need is a piece of cardstock that is 8.5 inches long by 5.5 inches tall. And I am changing up the color. I'm going to go with Bermuda Bay on this one. Calypso Coral was my base on the card that I copied from Karen's idea. So we're going to do a score on the long side, 4 1/4, and it's your basic standard card base. So I'm just going to fold it in half and then set this aside for a few minutes. You will also need a cardstock layer that is 5 1/4 by 4. I opted for black for this piece. And then the main part of our card, we need a piece of designer series paper that is 8 inches wide by 5 inches tall. And you're also going to need a scrap that is 2 inches wide by 5 inches tall. So hold this one to the side for now. Take a quick screenshot if you need to. And then I'll show you how we're going to make this work. One key note here is you need to have designer series paper that you like the print on both sides, because we are going to accordion fold it so you'll see the print on both sides. So we will need our paper trimmer or a scoring tool of some kind, and we're going to score this just a couple of times. Key thing here is this is paper, remember, this is thinner than cardstock. Don't press really hard or you'll do what I did the first time and cut your paper. It's the one trick to remember about designer series paper. We're so used to just scoring away. Be gentle. And so I'm just gonna run over this twice, but very gently, hardly with any pressure. That's at 2 1/8, and then I'm gonna slide down to 4 1/4 and do the same thing. Keep your trimmer handy, you will need it again in a minute. So we're just going to fold on the score lines, which are a little hard to see if you've got a very busy paper. So one of your score lines is just about on the center. And so you will have a zigzag fold. Now for mine, I'm going to glue my paper so my pocket is on the right-hand side. So my larger panel will get glued down, and then I'll glue it this way. If you're looking at your designer series paper and realize if you glue it this way, it's going to be upside down, don't panic. Just flip it around and do the reverse of my cutting directions, and your pocket will just be on the left. I had that happen with one of my samples and thought, oh man, and then I realized it doesn't matter what side of the card the pocket's on, as long as the print is in the right direction. So now what I'm going to do, I have my larger panel to the left because this is the way I want my card to work, and it works with my paper. So I'm going to measure down 3 1/4 inches from the top. I'm just going to put a little pencil mark here. Yep, 3 1/4. And now what I'm going to do, and I think I'm going to change this up from a little that I did on my Facebook Live. I was really struggling with this this paper because my score line blends right in with the pattern paper. But what you want to do is take that middle score line that's at 4 1/4, and you're going to cut on the diagonal from the top of that score line to your pencil mark. So I'm actually going to draw it with a pencil first. Nice and light. And that way I won't struggle so much to cut it here. Because what I like to do is line it up on my paper trimmer. And this is much easier to do when you can see your pencil line. So I'm just going to line up my pencil line with my cutting track and cut my triangle off. And remember what I said, if your designer series paper doesn't work, just do it the opposite and you'll create your pocket on the other side. I'm going to take a quick second. I'm just going to run my pencil eraser down my paper to make sure I don't have any of that pencil line still showing. And before I glue this on my card, one last thing. Go ahead and grab that strip of designer series paper that's 2 inches wide. What we want to do here is we're creating this panel here on the front. And the easiest way to do that and get the angle correct is to fold your paper like so, and I'm going to flip it because I want this dark side here on the bottom as well. And I'm going to snug it in here, but to help it be the right size, I'm going to lift it up about 1/8 of an inch from the bottom. I'm kind of going to center it as well. There's very, very little gap on either side, but I realized what I did initially, I lined my paper up at the bottom, and then when I did this cut, the panel that I created was the exact same size, so I had to take about 1/8 of an inch off the bottom. So if I lift it up just that little bit, I eliminate having to do that step. And you can either take your scissors or go back to your paper trimmer. And now, the panel that I've created has the perfect tiny little border for this panel here. Now we're going to assemble everything. So take your card base and your cardstock layer and your adhesive of choice. I'm using Stampin' Seal today for this part. I am going to use liquid glue in a minute and I'll explain why, but most of this I'm just putting together with a regular tape runner adhesive. Next, I'm going to put glue on this large panel. And I like to fold my paper shut. It's just a little easier to deal with at this point. Again, give it a little layer, or a little border, I mean, and press that down. Next, I'm going to put adhesive here on this middle panel. You can use liquid glue here if you want, or you can use regular glue or adhesive. I do recommend kind of getting close to the top. And be sure you're folding from your score line over. I don't want you to get any bubbles. And just fold that flat. Got a little bit of adhesive there that needs to go away. Now, here's where the glue comes in. This last panel is going to be your pocket. And if you don't want to put a bookmark on, go ahead and just glue it flat, but I want to create a pocket for my bookmark. And I need something very, very narrow or else my bookmark would be very skinny. So I'm just going to take some liquid glue and put the smallest little line along the bottom, as close as I can manage, and up the side to create my pocket. And then, again, fold from that score line in so you don't have a bubble. I'm going to press that down, and I'm just going to set this to the side. I'm actually going to put my adhesive on it. Keep that flat, and by the time I'm done my stamping, that pocket's going to be set and ready to go. So next up, a little bit of stamping. I'm going to stamp my envelope, and then I have an insert for my card. This is 5 1/4 by 4. I have a piece of thick basic white. This is going to serve as my bookmark. It's 1 3/4 inches wide by between 4 and 4 1/4 inches tall. If you do it a lot taller, it's going to be too tall of a bookmark for your card and it wouldn't fit in an envelope. So keep it between 4 and 4 1/4. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And then you need a piece of scrap for your sentiment. Now, I realize your sentiment might be longer than mine, so what I recommend is a piece of basic white that's 1/2 inch tall and just a little bit longer than your sentiment. Mine happens to be 1 3/4 inch. And then you want another scrap of cardstock slightly bigger. I'm going to give it a border on all 4 edges, so 3/4 inch tall and then about 1/4 inch longer than your sentiment piece. So it might not be my exact measurements, but go with what your sentiment is. So first up, I'm going to stamp my sentiment in Bermuda Bay. Let's see how straight I can get this. Oh, did pretty well there. Let that set to the side. I'm going to go ahead and stamp my envelope corner. I'm going to switch up to some Calypso Coral. And these images are red rubber cling stamps, so I actually don't need a cushion underneath because it's built right into the stamp itself. Now on the inside of the card, I'm going to stamp this book at the top, and then a stack of books at the bottom, both in Calypso Coral, like that. And then I'm going to put another greeting in the middle. This one says, "Thankful for friends like you," and I'm going to go back to that Bermuda Bay for a minute. And there you go. While I've got my stamps out, also going to work on that bookmark. Now, I opted for thick basic white for my bookmark just to give this a little more sturdiness. You could definitely use a thinner piece, but just be careful because it will be thinner and more pliable. So for this tag, what I'm going to do is use a tag topper punch. So mine is the Delightful tag topper. If you happen to have a retired tag topper in your inventory, that would be fine. Or a tag die that is about this width would work. Or you can simply just punch a hole in the top. You have options with your bookmark. So for this one, my paper doesn't quite fit in the punch. It's a little narrower. So I'm going to slide my paper in, but I don't want my bookmark to be crooked. So one thing I love about our punches is I can turn it over and I can see my paper here at the top. So I'm just going to line it up and make sure my punch is centered and pop that out. And there I have my cute little bookmark. You could very easily keep your bookmark very simple with a piece of designer series paper, maybe that covered most of it, or just be creative with your bookmark. I'm going to do some stamping. So for my bookmark, I'm going to go back to the book stamps. So first of all, in Calypso Coral, I'm going to stamp 1 stack of books. And I brought in my scrap paper in case I go off the edge. Now I'm going to change up and use Bermuda, almost threw my stamp, Bermuda Bay, like that. And then 1 more stack in the Calypso Coral. And I like this, but I said, you know what? I need a little space filler. So what I did was I grabbed my All for Baby set. I needed something with a small image. Obviously something pretty large was not going to fit here. So my All for Baby had a cute little star. So I'm going to fill in with some stars in colors that match my designer series paper. So I pulled in Granny Apple Green and Mango Melody. So I'm just going to add some little accent stars here to my card. And this just fills in the space. Makes it a little more eye-catching. Just like that. So next up, I'm going to go ahead and put my ribbon on the top of my bookmark. I have some pool party ribbon. So all I'm going to do is take my ribbon, I'm going to fold over a short length of ribbon and trim. And then I'm going to fold the edges together so it's smaller to work with. And I'm going to feed this through the back of the bookmark first. Pull those front edges out and then pull them back through the loop that's left. Don't pull too hard or you'll tear the top out of your bookmark. You don't want to do that. This I'm just going to set aside for a second. Whoop. So here's my base. My pocket is nice and dry. To finish the card, I'm going to take the cap off my adhesive first. That always works best. Back to the stamp and seal. For my insert of the card, like so. My sentiment, I'm going to layer together. And this is going to go on the front of the card with some dimensionals. Now you could put a sentiment anywhere on the card front you want. Depends on the width and length of it. Don't cover up your pocket, obviously. This one I'm going to stick, let's see, I think I'll put this one off to one side like this. And then all I have to do is take my bookmark and slip it right into the pocket. And I'm going to trim these ribbons a little bit. I don't want to trim it all the way close to the bookmark. I like a little bit of room here, but I don't want it quite so lengthy. Just like that. So there is my sweet little pocket card with a bookmark, and it looks cute in either color variation. So as I mentioned earlier, this is the one I copied directly from Karen, but I had some fun playing with other samples. First off, I have to show you one that I made with the Perfect Plants suite. So I used the Designer Series paper, and this was the paper when I cut it and folded it. I realized if I put the pocket on the right, it's going to be upside down, and nobody wants upside down plants. And so at first I thought, oh man, I'm going to have to start over. And then I said, wait a minute, there's no reason my bookmark pocket can't be on the left. So that's what I did, and I actually left off the extra piece of Designer Series paper because when I did go ahead and cut and measure it, but my lines were off. They didn't quite match up, and I'm a little bit OCD with lines that don't line up. So I just thought this was cute and left that as it was. And here's the bookmark I created with some dies from the coordinating set. And I added a little bling there just to cap that off. And so my bookmark fits in the pocket. You can use something that's a little wider than the pocket itself, but you're going to have to be careful because obviously if you go too much wider, it won't fit in the pocket. And then there's the inside. And then I was trying to come up with one more idea, and I realized we have the perfect new stamp set. This is a sneak peek of a set that is coming in January 2022 called In the Moment. And we have this stamp with this lovely girl reading a book with her canine friend. So on this one, I just left the DSP as it was. I somehow managed to cut the pocket wrong, but it still worked. And I meant to flip it around and put the pocket on the right again, and I forgot. But here's the bookmark that I created for this card, and I just think this is so sweet. I colored the bookmark with my Stampin' Blends. This is actually one of the largest dies from the tailor-made tag set, and it's the perfect fit for this pocket. So it's a great set if you use tags a lot in your gift giving, or if you like to make little bookmarks. And then this one I kept blank on the inside with just a strip of matching Designer Series paper. And there you go. And I can actually tuck her down far enough you can't even see her little head. Alright, so there are our gift card with bookmark. I hope you enjoyed Karen's technique, and thank you so much for joining me. I would love it if you haven't already, if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel. I post videos typically twice a week here with different card making ideas and projects. You can also follow me over on Facebook at The Faithful Stamper. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care and happy crafting.